I've been playing guitar for so long that it's not magical to me. Like talent isn't magic. It's about the amount of work you put into it. And, if you really want it, you'll get good. So I don't think there's anything to be humbled by. I think I did put a lot of work into the instrument. I put a lot of work into studying music. I put a lot of work into studying comedy. And the end result is, the stuff that you guys have seen.
Talking to myself on mute as usual. What's up, everybody? It's Keefy at GhostCultMag.com. Once again, welcoming in Brendon Small of Dethklok and many other projects. Sir, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks for being back, man. We were just tickled pink by the response to our lengthy two-part interview series with you last year about all the things, and now you had a successful, hugely successful tour that we were also fortunate enough to cover, and now you're back on the eve of another tour. So many things, so many wheels spinning and things going on. You got to be super excited, right?
Yeah. It's look, it's crazy. I've had a very strange, I guess, career, if you want to call it that. And the most fun that I get to have is playing guitar. So it's a fun challenge. These songs have a lot of parts and bells and whistles, and it's really fun to kind of continue jumping on stage and playing with this group of really solid as hell musicians that I've been playing with for, I guess, for a while now.
I love that you're always very humble and don't include yourself in that very esteem. You are an incredible guitar player. This concept that came out of your mind spring has lasted this whole time, even beyond the end of the show and things like that. You gotta give it up to yourself, man, because
Sure, thanks.
you have
Yeah,
a
I
lot of
mean,
fans.
well, I appreciate it. It's nice. It's funny, I don't really think, I've been playing guitar for so long that it's not magical to me. Like talent isn't magic. It's about the amount of work you put into it. And, if you really want it, you'll get good. So I don't think there's anything to be humbled by. I think I did put a lot of work into the instrument. I put a lot of work into studying music. I put a lot of work into studying comedy. And the end result is, the stuff that you guys have seen. So I don't know. I don't think there's anything that worth getting humbled or not humbled over. It's just like it's a job, and it's a really fun job to have. So I'm fortunate that I somehow managed to carve out a job like this in this ridiculous world that we live in. So I don't know. I feel like I'm the luckiest guy in the world. So going out on the road again with these new bands, with DragonForce and with Nekrogoblikon, is really, it's just more fun. It's more guitar fun for me. So I don't know how much more fun I could have. But seriously, all the stuff that I do, from directing, acting, writing, to guitar playing, to writing music, is like it's all a very similar kind of endeavor where it's just simply fun. I got nothing new to say about it. It's really fun, and I'm really lucky to be able to kind of to have talked to people into letting me do this.
Right on. Yes, we continue, just like I like to say, we just keep fooling everybody. That's how we made it to 11, 12
Yeah,
years as a website. And it's just like we've got everybody fooled. It's cool. We fake it till
yeah.
we make it. And then we finally made it. It was like, I guess we'll just keep going the way we've been going. Yeah, there's so many things going on at once. And what I wanted to kind of touch on this live performance and staging and things, obviously, you want to bring fans have an expectation who've never seen the band live and don't know what to expect, but you have an expectation also as a creator and a performer what you want to deliver. And I feel like the few times that I've seen Dethklok, every show has been a thing, but also definitely a different experience each time, different songs, different visuals. Obviously there's the classic stuff you have to always play. Every band is
hmm
bound to play the hits, and you have yours. So how does it, what goes into the staging, creating different visuals every time? How much
Yeah.
planning is involved?
Well, there's a good amount of planning. We consider this a continuation of the Baby Clock tour. This is kind of like a primary market and secondary market. So we are adding some very, very small different things, and that all is tricky. It's not like a regular band where you can just kind of decide to start playing different songs. We have to have visual components. We have to have like a whole live kind of timed out, thing that has to happen in accordance with the song we're playing. It's not, I mean, it'd be fun just to be able to play songs and have no lights or anything like that, or no animation, but I think the audience will be like, what's going on here? So, but in conceiving the TV show versus the music versus the live show, the idea was, how do you make each thing stand by itself? How does the TV show stand alone as, for character, for comedy, for just kind of visual excitement? How does the music stand by itself? Where if you didn't watch the TV show, would this be compelling to anybody? And then thirdly, how do I make this forget the TV show and forget the music by itself? How do I make this live event something that stands alone so that if you didn't know the show, you didn't know the music, you'd still have a probably, hopefully, a really, really, really good night out and enjoy yourself and be entertained like crazy. So that's the idea. And I always thought the live show is almost like a Universal Studios ride. You know, like the T2 ride is the one I always think about, where there's a bad guy, there's a good guy, the bad guy comes on screen, boo, the good guy comes on screen, yay. You know, same thing with Dethklok and kind of their rivals. So that happens in our live show. We like to get the audience involved, and we just also and then I sit there and I work with Gene Hoglan on this timeline as well. So the question is always, you know, where do we put X, Y, and Z in the order in the song list? And Gene's always got a really compelling take on that stuff. And he's one of the people that I really agree with him on what a live music event should be. It should be pummeling. It should be fast. There should be epic songs. We should earn those times and just really create a musical narrative, you know, an energy narrative more than anything else, because the narrative is kind of neither here nor there. But the energy of the show should be really intact. It should really know what it is. It should know where it lifts off, and it should know where it takes you. It should know where it drops you off. And that's kind of the idea of what this show is too. So as we kind of are in the last few weeks of preparation, these are the kind of things I'm working with a team who's doing new animation. I work with then I'll sit with Gene and I'll say, what do we do to reorganize, to strategize? And he says, and I go, do you have enough time from this song to the next song? On our last tour, we crammed so much music into the hour that we had because we were co-headlining that we didn't give the audience a chance to breathe, and we didn't give ourselves a chance to breathe. There were some shows where where it was hot. It was hot out there now, and my eyes were rolling back into my head, and I thought, you know, Gene, I think we could use a couple more seconds in between these two songs that I'm screaming and playing and, you know, doing everything that I can to get the song out. So these are all the kinds of things that we think about. And yeah, the whole thing is this big kind of visual component that we play with, you know, that we're kind of aligned with. So that's the stuff that we think about. That's kind of what it is. Again, three components: the TV show, the narrative, the musical part, and then the live thing, standing alone.
Nice work. Thanks for unpacking that. I love the idea of the narrative live. Just like an album has a sequence, a show should have a flow. And please hydrate and take care of yourself. Don't collapse, please.
I know. Trust me.
It's important to self-care while you're performing. It's a lot, but stay hydrated. Yeah, Gene, no surprise, just like he's also I think he's pretty much the set list designer for Dark Angel, so just totally tracks for me. Gene's wonderful. We've also talked to him in the past. Wonderful guy and the greatest. Here's a random question I always had for you as a former concert photographer and a person that manages a whole team of people that come out to photograph the band. I noticed that the band is often in darkness or silhouetted with a little bit of light from behind. Is that to prevent it from taking away from, you don't want to take attention away from the screen and the other component of the show, or is it just you prefer to not be seen? Because I'm sure people want to see what you're doing.
You know, it's the kind of thing where I think if you get close enough and you want to watch our fingers, you can see it. But for the most part, we think we are, or at least here's my philosophy: we're not Dethklok. We sound exactly like Dethklok, but we are not those characters. We are, you know, to me, I always think it's a ballet. The ballet is this gigantic screen behind us, and we're the pit orchestra. And though we are generating all the sounds and the vocals and stuff, I'm not Nathan Explosion. I'm not Squiskar Squig Elf. I'm some guy who who generates the sounds. And I think it's kind of, to me, the perfect place to be on stage, which is that you're on stage, you're at the center of the stage, but you're also in the shadows. So it's my job to really just be a musician up there, to get excited and to sell the music and, you know, all that stuff. But really to just, in my head, I have in-ears on and I'm listening to sometimes click tracks, sometimes just Gene, sometimes, you know, Neely and Pete or Brian Beller or whatever. I'm just listening to everybody and I'm trying to multitask. And there's a lot of multitask going on between vocalizing and antics and pedals and all that stuff. So I think if we had light on us, I don't think the show would be as interesting. I really don't think so. In fact, I think me physically, I am bad for the brand. That's what I've been saying for a long time. You don't need to see me. You need to imagine Pickles. You need to imagine Squithguard and Toki and Murderface. You don't need to imagine me. So I'm dancing right on the edge of ruining the thing, but staying in the dark, I think, really helps the whole thing. And if you're interested, the only way you're going to be interested is if we're in the shadows. I think beyond that, we're pushing it, and it's not about. It really isn't about me. So I constantly take me, my name, my physicality out of the mix as often as I can because it's about this idea of this band that is a figment of my imagination that has grown and turned into something else. So keep me out of it. I'm bad for the brand. That's where I stand.
Fair enough. As I like to say, I have a face for radio, but here I am doing these
Mhm.
videos. And as the immortal George Carlin used to say, why are figments only of your imagination? What about other kinds of figments? Anyway, comedy. Comedy
Yes.
always and often.
Yes.
Speaking of, I guess it's not a spoiler, but if it is, we can cut this out. I interviewed Brian last month for Aristocrats, another person who's graciously given his time to Ghost Cult many times, like yourself.
Hmm.
And he mentioned that he's not on this next leg of the tour. He will be joining the band back later in the year. But so talk about Pete for a second. For those that don't know, Pete is insane. By the way, he's a master musician, and he's certainly worthy. Brian's incredible. Also, you've been very lucky to work with some of the best.
Absolutely. Pete Griffin, how did I meet him first? I'm trying to even remember. I knew that he was in the kind of Zappa plays Zappa world. I probably met him through Brian and probably Mike Keneally. And Mike Keneally, of course, is just one of the greatest musicians that's ever lived. And I think that they were doing Zappa plays Zappa stuff. They were all kind of involved in that Zappa world in one way or another. Going way back, I think I saw Brian Beller and Mike Keneally when I was around 19 years old back in the 90s when they were playing through town, doing their own stuff and playing with the Zappa brothers at the time. So this is like way long ago, and they were always on my radar because they're virtuosic musicians with senses of humor, and that is always something that appeals to me. Pete, I would do. I've done so many shows with Pete that aren't even Dethklok shows. When there was a big stretch of time where I was just doing a lot of comedy and music, just locally here in Los Angeles, where I would do a comedy show with the comedian and actor Steve Agee, who you would recognize from the Peacemaker show, James Gunn show, so many other. He's a recognizable actor and a really funny guy and a great musician. On top of that, he actually went to BIT back in the day at MI here in Los Angeles Music School. So anyway, Pete would do every show with that, with that. So we would do a show called Baked, which was at the Baked Potato here in Los Angeles, and we would have different comedians come and do the show. Everyone from like Zach Galifianakis to Margaret Cho to, geez, so many different other people. Mark Maron, lots of people like that would come and just play music or do something. So it was kind of a live music show and a live comedy show, which is a crazy show because those are two completely different kinds of audiences. One is a loud, rowdy audience, and the one is, a quiet, listening to comedy, listening to jokes kind of audience. So trying to make that work was always crazy. But Pete was there every single time. Pete can do anything. He's got a great ear. He's a great writer and he's a great player. And his bass tone sits in really, really well. Brian Beller has a completely different tone that also is a big punctuation mark and just so much attack and so much cool stuff. I love bass. I make fun of bass through the show all the time for William Murderface, and it would seem like I don't like bass. But the truth is that I have a bass, and I have learned so much from being around Brian Beller and from being around Pete Griffin because how they sit in with a mix really kind of helps me arrange, helps me kind of and Beller's technique and just playing and like how he hits the string has made me a better bass player. I did all the bass on the newest Dethklok record for reasons of time. Like seriously, I just had no time. I had to do it all myself, and I got some nice compliments from Brian Beller because I really did. I take that stuff as seriously as the guitar. Anyway, Pete is outstanding. He's just solid as hell, and that's what you really want from a bass player. He's easygoing. The whole thing is when you're hiring a musician to work with you, they have to be your roommate for a certain amount of time. They have to be cool, collected, and not let the highs get you too high and the lows get you too low, and realize this is an industry, this is a business, there's money being spent, all that stuff. So you're always looking for professionals, and these guys are all professionals, easy to talk to. They communicate really well. They're different personalities, but they're very verbal. They're two completely different people. So I can't even really compare them because, but they have a sense of humor about themselves, about the scenario, and they're there to throw down and play, and take the job as seriously as possible. It's really crazy, how fun this show is, how much difficulty there is. Like I said, there's a lot of it's like a big maze that you just kind of get dropped off on, and you just have to like try to. It's like Guitar Hero. You try to play every part perfectly, and otherwise you go, oh boo, oh no, boo. And we're always trying to nail the show. We're always trying to nail it as hard as we can and more expressively than we did before. So it's funny. We walk off the stage all the time, and I'll go, "Hey, Gene, how was your show? Hey, Neely, how was your show? Hey, Pete, how's your show?" And everyone's got some kind of critique of themselves when they go off the stage, and so do I. I've got tons of critiques for myself. I'm almost never satisfied, and neither are they, which is probably why they're so good. They've never rested on their laurels. They've always sought to improve no matter what it is. Just because there's a lot of learning on this show. There's a lot. They're all coming off of other gigs too. Gene's got so much stuff going on. I know Neely is in Europe right now. She's coming back. Pete's got a lot of stuff going on. He's always playing. And for them to jump back into this stuff is, it's not necessarily always easy. And we hadn't done this for a while, pre-Baby Metal. So getting that show together was really fun and foundational. And like I said, we're self-critical. And I always like to say this, the worst audience at a Dethklok show is on that stage critiquing themselves. And that's part of why they're great professionals, I think.
That's the struggle, right? The self-criticism.
Yeah.
Thank you for putting some respect on bass players' names on behalf of all bass players and former bass players everywhere. We are the butt of jokes in the music industry. It's not just you or the show. We are the bottom totem on the bottom of the pole for memes. We just get wrecked. It's okay. You ever been to a show where the bass goes out? It's weak. It's weak sauce.
Yeah.
So hey, I'm not sure if we left out anybody. I didn't know if this tour had any additional musicians coming on in another role or not, or if you consider writing to expand the live show at some point in the future if the album's called for it.
It's Laura Christine played guitar on a few shows. It worked out perfectly that she was in town and could do a couple things because I love guitar harmonies. When I do a guitar harmony, like Going to the Water or something big on Death Album 4, I have, you should see my Pro Tools setup. It's just, I have maybe at least 6 guitars in a harmony, like at least 3 triads, one, and then like a stacked up high, just stuff I learned from Brian May, from listening to Queen, from studying arranging and all that stuff. But live, we'll never be able to get that many guitars on the track. 2 are really good. 3 is wonderful if we can do it. But it's usually like, down to what can we afford? This project is, I'm in the driver's seat of production all the time because I am this is my endeavor. I've taken on the risk. I go and license this project out. This is the way that the nuts and bolts of all this work is. I have to go and license this, even though I created it, blah, blah, blah. And I have to make sure I can afford what it is we're doing. Taking out like a big LED screen is like, we're taking out a gigantic TV set and taking it into like heavy metal shows and saying, watch this show with us. We're going to play to it. It's going to be really cool. So there's a lot of stuff that goes into just affording all that stuff. So it's always tricky. It's always great. We get as many musicians as we can afford. It's funny. I've talked to lots of bands that keep kind of building the show up. And the question is, over the years, can you continue affording this stuff? And also, do you build it up to a point where if you're not making, you can't afford to do the show anymore, And then where do you go from there, especially if you entice an audience into accepting a certain kind of level of production? So I'm always I work in TV. I just got to make a movie. The budget and the bottom line is some of the most important stuff you'll ever have to think about. And this is something that I think musicians should be concerned about, as well as filmmakers, TV show makers. The budget is the king. If you can manage to make it work, you may have a life in the industry. So that's something that's always, always important. I always think about Roger Corman, the filmmaker. And I think there's a line that said, a filmmaker that doesn't know anything about the money part of filmmaking is like a painter who doesn't understand what paint does. So I think we all have to kind of collectively understand our budgets, look at our bottom lines, and see how we can wrestle through this, make it work for the audience and for the performers.
Shout out to the Roger Corman mention. Chef's kiss, no notes, my friend. Just a few more questions for you. Thank you so much for always being generous. I got to shout out my colleague Pags. We were texting earlier, and he was like, dude, the white Epiphones. I was like, I know, dude. Like, they're so good. What do you bring on tour as your guitar arsenal? I don't think I've ever asked you that.
That is a good question. Okay, so this is all part of a bigger narrative. My studio got robbed about a year and 6 months ago, right? And that robbery it sucks and everything. Sure, what are you going to do? You got to move on. Seriously, I got robbed, and then the next day we had a show. So, they stole my guitars. The show must go on. So I have some of my favorite guitars. This one will probably go on the show with me. This is like my first this is all over Death album one. It's my first Explorer. It's had a couple different pickup changes. This had like a diamond plate kind of pick guard. Now it's just black on black. It's just the most evil and the coolest thing. And I keep changing my string gauges. I keep changing everything from show to show. I'm also become very agnostic about which guitars I use. I will probably bring my white Flying V, which is the Snow Horse. I don't have all my other guitars are in storage. I don't have my Thunder Horses anymore. My favorite one got stolen. What are you going to do? Since then, I've become very agnostic about guitars. I love Gibsons. I always will, but I am checking everything out. I've got Strandbergs. I've got these gorgeous guitars here too. This is a Nick Johnston Schecter that he was nice enough to give me, and he gave me two other ones too. And these guitars are gorgeous. They're wonderful. I love them. They sound so good. They play so well. Nice big flat fretboards. I have a Strandberg over here this is my hotel guitar. I have this with me. These headless ones. I love this guitar. I have if you ever see me with this is a Joe Satriani strap that he gave me a while ago with a guitar that he gave me that was stolen. Since then, I've replaced that guitar. But yeah, so tomorrow I'm going to pick up a Tosin guitar, one of those Abasis that I'm very excited about. So fortunately, I had insurance. So I'm using that money to buy some new guitars that do some different things. So I also have an Ernie Ball Jason Richardson coming too that I had specially made. So I am checking out a bunch of guitars at the same time, and you may see me with something that's not a Gibson. I'll probably be playing that Explorer a lot, and that Ghost Horse Explorer too. I used that on my last tour. It was really cool.
Yep.
It's my own signature one. Yeah. So guitars. I'll talk forever about guitars.
I know you will. I saw the photos. We got to cover the tour, and we will undoubtedly cover this next one. Sorry about the painful memory, but thanks for sharing. I want to see more extreme and death metal guitar players use Strat type guitars because I feel like they're underserved, man. I want to see more.
Oh
of them.
yeah, oh yeah. Seriously. But I also love Strat players from Jeff Beck to Yngwie to just there's so much tone on those single coils. That's the great thing about guitar is you only live once. Play every guitar you possibly can. Why not, right?
Right on. As excited as I am for DragonForce new album out now and Nekrogoblikon, always fun live. I live in the Bay Area, so we are getting blessed and doubly lucky with 2 nights of the tour with Baby Metal, with getting a reprise of the Dethklok tour for 2 nights. It's so crazy. What a good time.
I am so happy that turned out because I know that both teams really, it's our tour. I think it was like something about the post-pandemic, the fact that we hadn't been on the road for a while. Dethklok hadn't, nor had Baby Metal. And then we had Jason Richardson there too. And Jason is, by the way, we've all become friends through the first day of hanging out, like just kind of meeting everybody. From the first day, we just had an open conversation and everyone was just pals and everyone was just ready to hang out and everyone was really excited. So it was nice. It was really nice to be there. It was just very positive. The whole camp from Baby Metal was delightful to work with, from everyone that was on the stage to their whole crew, our crew and their crew. Everybody got along. It was super cool. So the fact that we have an opportunity to just to say hi to each other again is pretty wonderful. It doesn't happen that often. We had such a good time touring together that we just thought, oh, is there anything in the future we can do again? Because this was too much fun.
Right on, and helping me with my segue. Speaking of the future, I know you're on Headbangers Boat later in the years, or anything else in the works. Is it too soon to know about other stuff?
Yeah, there's some stuff that's being spoken about. I don't know where we're gonna land on it. It's all gonna kind of it'll all be like based on, not to be coy or anything, because I don't think I am. It's all gonna be based on like how this first kind of endeavor goes. We did a co-headlining tour, now we're doing a headlining tour. And I'm always kind of thinking, like I said, I'm always thinking like Roger Corman, what can we afford? What can we do? Where's the cross section of what we can do and how much audience shows up. So far, it's all looking really nice. I'd love to be able to continue making a business out of this, but I guess the numbers will show me everything. I'm thinking like a producer. So, like I said, I mean, if I could make guitar my job forever, I mean, it kind of has been, but playing live has always been like something we do sporadically. If we can continue finding this audience and this audience keeps on showing up, I'd love to keep on doing. There's also a point where you go, all right, enough's enough. Take your curtain call, walk
It's
away.
a delicate balance between oversaturation and playing enough to make it profitable. It's a tough one. The music business.
Yeah,
It's
it
not.
really is. It
It's
really
tough.
is. I
Very
like
tough.
to err on this. I like to err on the side of, leave them wanting a little bit more.
That's it,
That's
man.
what I
That's
think.
it.
Yeah.
That's and for a final question, I always like to end with a wild card on my interviews. And so the one I have for you is: do you have a specific favorite concert memory where the show, the spectacle of the show, has stayed with you all these years, just from a fan standpoint?
Oh, geez. Oh, that's a really, really hard one. If I had been prepared, I maybe could think about that. I'm gonna try to think about some great shows that I've seen. I love a visual show. I mean, seriously, like seeing something like Baby Metal live is an experience. It's not just a bunch of musicians playing, though it is musicians and they're throwing down like crazy and they're playing their asses off. But yeah, I mean, I've seen so many different kinds of shows out there. There's like, some of the best shows I've ever seen are like a 45-minute set from Cannibal Corpse, where they just go out there. They don't have like too much production going on, and it's perfect. You don't want more. You don't need it to be too glossy or too like, Las Vegas styled or anything. You want it to be just like hardcore and evil. And they've thrown that. I've seen Slayer just like, just seeing like upside down crosses from Marshall cabinets from far away. That is such a gorgeous and just repugnant imagery on screen. It's just so evil and it's really exciting. I'm trying to think like, there are things where I've seen like documentaries of like Wagner's The Ring Cycle where they have gigantic sets and smoke and rocks and all kinds of crazy stuff. There's so many live things that are possible that you can do if you have the right size stage and all that. In a perfect world, we would it would be wonderful to continue trying to expand the stage. I don't think I've got a really good answer for this one, by the way. I think bigger is always better and more exciting when but I don't really have one take because some of the best shows I've seen are like, under 1,000 people at the House of Blues somewhere too, where I have a little bit more intimacy with the band. Though when you see like a huge band, like I saw Kiss earlier this year and seeing Gene Simmons do the Gods of Thunder like freak out where blood comes out and it's just like the perfect camera angle and it just feels like the whole world is being torn apart and it's crazy. That's like some of the coolest stuff I've ever seen. A really great performance from Gene Simmons with blood coming out of his mouth on a gigantic screen as he's freaking out and this tower is just rising and rising and rising. That's a cool moment too. When Paul Stanley is coming out like on a zip line with no like safety net or anything and he's not a professional acrobat. It's really daunting and scary and awesome and he landed in the stage right in front of us and just played and it was really cool. So I don't know, anytime there's bombast, anytime there's like crazy fire and lights and all that stuff, it's pretty amazing.
Definitely. You will not catch me ziplining anywhere when I'm 70, let alone rocking an Iceman and singing, shout it out loud. But,
Yeah.
yeah, man, just House of Blues, the very first Dethklok show I ever saw, Mastodon, Dethklok,
Yeah.
House of Blues, Boston.
Oh,
Phenomenal.
yeah, yeah.
That was well over 15 years ago. So thank
Yeah,
you for
yeah.
everything, man. You've always been really great to Ghost Cult. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. It's a pleasure. Be safe and best of luck on the road. And we'll see you at least at one of these shows, if not a few.
Rock and roll, man. Thanks for taking an interest.
My pleasure.